Break it down.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Midwest Chicana podcast with the Latinx Education Collaborative and Chicano Center for the Arts. My name is Susana Elizarraraz. I may be a familiar face to many of you as I used to be the Deputy Director of the Latinx Education Collaborative, but I am here in my new role as the founder and owner of El Oros Tesoro, LLC. My life has definitely shifted quite a bit in the last year and a half. And I'm here to chat with you all about that. So, like moving beyond the 9 to 5, building a business after the bustle. Deanna, the team, and I have talked a lot about entrepreneurship and how, as Latinos and first generation or immigrant families, aren't really sure where to start when it comes to building a business. And then I know for my generation, I was told in school that college was the only way to become successful. I know that some of my peers heard that and we're still able to be really successful in the arts and in building businesses and things. But I definitely took it to heart when it came to I got to go to college, get a 9 to 5, and that's going to be the rest of my life, right? Well, my life circumstances have definitely shifted, and I kind of got thrown into being a business owner. And so I'm going to be sharing over a series, actually, kind of what life can look like after the bustle, right? After the 9 to 5, the emails, or like clocking in, clocking out, how we can take ownership of our time and of our lives and take autonomy, be more autonomous with the things that we do, the time that we spend, and what we spend our time and our energy on. So I look forward to being with y'all over the next little bit less than an hour. Like I said, this is just the introduction to what we're going to be talking about over a series this spring. So before I get into all of that, I want, for those of you all who don't know my background and my story starts with my parents who immigrated to the United States in 1985 before I was born. I'm the cutest one in this picture, is what I always say. I'm the baby in this picture. My older brother Noé, my sister Noeli, and my mom Maria del Carmen, and then of course myself. I am the third of four. I have a little brother, Gerardo, who is not pictured. But this is always one of my favorite pictures to show of my family because first of all, I feel like it really captures the essence of like the struggle that growing up was. Not to be dramatic, but it kind of does. So this picture actually was taken. The story is that my mom was just like walking through, I think, a shopping mall, and they were giving free family photos. So my mom, when this used to be up on the wall in my house growing up, she'd be like, "Mira, los tenía bien mugrosos and everything. Like, we didn't even dress up. You guys just had whatever you had on, but I wanted to have a family picture." It was our first family picture, and then I think, one of our only family pictures. And so, again, to capture that essence of like being new in this country, not really understanding American society, not having access to information was a big thing for us as kids and as a family. Growing up, my mom was also undocumented, and so being the first generation here in America, and then in the middle of the Midwest in Kansas City, we struggled to get access to information, and my mom really tried really hard to instill in us that everything was possible. My mom is disabled, and so there were also other elements of society that we didn't have access to just because of my mom's struggle to engage in more ways than one, right? So my mom has very little formal education. Both of my parents do. And that included being able to read and write. And so my mom, I love the way that my mom raised us with what she had. And I think many of us, those of you all listening, probably have a similar story, even though all of our parents are different and we come from different places. I had a parent who was willing to use what she had to give us access to what she knew of. So, for example, one of my favorite stories to tell about my upbringing is that we didn't have a lot of money, and my mom wasn't really aware of like cultural events and things that was happening around us. But our go-to place was the library. It was free. Hi, Edwin. Saludos desde Baltimore. I see. Our big place was the library. It was free, and it was on the metro line. So we lived here in the northeast of Kansas City, and we would hop on the bus on Independence Avenue, and it would take us straight down to Wilson Road to the library. We always thought that was like a fun thing. They had puppet shows, they had computers, they had, books and art classes and stuff like that. But again, kind of trying to acclimate to American society while there being like this lack or like gap of information was a struggle. So going back to what I said at the beginning with like, you were told you get a job, you do the 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out, and you wait until retirement. I took that very seriously because it was like, okay, at least I have a playbook. At least I have a something written out or something told out that is going to ensure that I'm successful, ensure that I have stability, ensure that I have security, right? So I think I took that very seriously. And it changed it set my trajectory. I shouldn't say change. It set my trajectory for my education, for the beginning of my career, and for my career up until this day. I think becoming a business owner was one of the risks that I didn't want to pursue because of the fear that it was, growing up low income, growing up first generation. It's like, I want something where like I'm going to be told where to go, what time, and then I'm going to wait for a paycheck every 2 weeks. My schooling kind of affirmed those goals because, again, I feel like I come from the generation, the 90s and the early 2000s, where it was like college, 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 right? So we're going to continue to talk about that. But of course, now I have my own little family. This is Carlos Amado and Carmela Esperanza. They are 4 and 1. They are definitely a handful. If you hear them in the background every once in a while, just know Dad's like probably wrestling them. So becoming a mother has obviously opened my eyes to, I think, how not linear life is. Like I said, in the beginning of my life, it was very much black and white. Like, you graduate school, that's success. You go to college, that's success, right? You have a stable job, you have health insurance, those things are success. And even though, of course, those can be markers for success and metrics for success for some people, I'm learning throughout my life and throughout becoming a mother that things aren't always black and white like that. Hi, Leslie. Oh my God, your babies are beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. My biggest lesson in the fact that life is not black and white has been, I'll kind of skip forward really quick and then go back. Our son. This is our son, Carlos Amado, as I mentioned. And when he was born with genetic differences that we didn't know about when I was pregnant. So long story short, when he was first born, they kind of knew off the bat that something was going on. and we spent almost 4 months in the NICU at Children's Mercy. And this was the intro to like, life is not black and white. Life is not 9 to 5. Life is not clock in, clock out. I had to start to get more and more comfortable with the gray areas and the void and the unknown. Like I hate and hated growing up the unknown. When you come from a family where when your parents are undocumented, you want to be, or at least the way we grew up was very like, who's going to be there, what time are we leaving, how are we getting there, when are we leaving, you know, how long are we going to be there, even school events, right? Is security going to be present? Am I going to need my ID? Am I not going to need my ID? Do we have a teacher there that we can trust? Is that person a trustworthy person? You have like this checklist of things that were important to know and understand, because our safety was always at risk. My mom being here was always at risk, right? So it's no wonder that like I definitely adopted these very black and white ways of thinking. And as I've become more a part of the entrepreneur community with Chicano Center for the Arts and with Deanna, seeing what you all do and like took the risk to do every day is teaching me. Is teaching me. Like I said, Amado being born with genetic differences that were unexpected. They don't exist in our family. He's the first in our family, and actually only one of 20 in mankind that's ever been documented with his difference. Um, so this very like not black and white situation, right? We just actually had an appointment today with his plastic surgeon, and they've been following him preparing for these surgeries in the future. And he's like, we'll do these scans like next year, but just know that we may not have the answers right off the bat. I'm going to have to consult with doctors around the world to see what other people have done, to see what's best for him. So it's like the epitome of like being challenged to look outside the box of what motherhood was, of what building a family was going to be. And I'm so grateful for that. You know, Amado has really set me up for what we're going to talk about today, or more of what we're going to talk about today, with like living outside of the margins, being comfortable to live in the void, being comfortable living in the gray, being comfortable to take a risk, right? The procedures and the things that Amado has gone through, right? Being comfortable with not knowing, and taking those risks, knowing that it may be what's going to be best for him, right? So the beginning of my career, as I said, kind of followed this very linear path. I was the first in my family to graduate high school, and the first in my family to go to college. I got my bachelor's of elementary education at UMKC. I knew I wanted to teach little kids. I swore I wanted to teach little kids. I wanted to teach in the neighborhood where I grew up, and I did that. I taught at Gladstone Elementary in the Northeast here in KC-Mo. And it was like some of the most amazing days, best 6 years. I don't know if I can say the best 6 years of my life, but definitely some really amazing, beautiful days and lessons that I learned teaching. Obviously, I think, and I still believe this, right? Children, whether it's like children we mother at home or children that we raise in other capacities, will definitely teach you to live outside the margins and live outside the box. So this was one of my favorite things I've ever done, is be a teacher. And even though I thought this one path was going to be for me, teaching little kids, I ended up teaching sixth grade and loving it. I taught sixth grade for 5 years, and it was one of my favorite things that I've ever done in my life. While I was teaching, I got my master's in teaching English as a second language at Webster University. And I'll bring that back up later, because when you are told to go to college, or you, like for myself, look at life in this very linear way, it's like, okay, well, you get this degree to do this job, and there's only like a 1-to-1. At least the way that, like, because college is, I mean, this whole system is so difficult to navigate, the education system and then the higher education system, that I'm like, okay, education teacher, like classroom teacher, clock in, clock out job. Um, so later we'll talk about like how, if your profession or your expertise is in education, like it doesn't necessarily have to mean classroom teaching. But again, being willing to challenge yourself, and for me, challenge myself to think outside the box, to be like, I have these skills and I have this knowledge that can translate into me doing all of these things, right? As I mentioned before, and as you probably know, I was deputy director of Latinx Education Collaborative after teaching for 5 years, and met some of my greatest friends ever, and not, the team, but also met so many teachers around the city and around the country, that are doing amazing work in education equity. Um, as I was teaching, this black and white, or like perfect picture of what teaching was going to be, um, just wasn't the case, because things are so complicated and the education system so complicated. You start asking questions about equity and representation and things, and it's not a one school issue or one district issue. This is a nationwide issue of representation. um, our kiddos, our schools not always having the resources that they need to do best by kids. Um, and when I learned that the LEC, Edgar Palacios, was starting the LEC and was needing folks on his team, I was like, absolutely. Um, Me, myself, being a first generation Latina, first generation Mexicana, not navigating this really complicated system of education and higher education. Hi, Nikki. Like, if I would have had more teachers like me, who were like, Sana, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be the 9 to 5. It doesn't have to be black and white. Um, you can teach in around the world. You can teach in different languages. Like, if I had known all of those options from the beginning, I don't know what I would have done. I don't regret that I did do it this way, right? Because I learned so much, and I very much cherish those days. But as I continue to chat about going beyond that 9 to 5, I have learned a lot from people who are like me, that are thinking outside the box, which really inspires me, right? Because as I mentioned before, like being first generation, coming from a family where fear was a big part of our lives, to see people like Deanna, like people in Deanna's community, other entrepreneurs who are like, no, we're not necessarily adhering to the status quo. That was a new concept for me in my mid 20s. Maybe my early 20s, UMKC and the Institute for Urban Education taught me a lot about like things are not equitable. um, and a lot of the biases and stereotypes that I had accepted, or that I began to believe, being challenged by, oh, well, people aren't served equitably in all these different systems. Um, and so I'll actually put in the snippet about Deanna, and I have conversations about my technically by definition being Chicana. But growing up, I didn't necessarily identify as Chicana, because I don't know why at the time, um, but there being like this dissonance with, I didn't feel like I could challenge the status quo growing up. You know, I didn't feel like I could push back the way that I thought was the only right way to be Chicano, was to push back and push the boundaries, right? And I feel like growing up, that wasn't an option for me. Like, we had to hide ourselves, I felt like, and maybe other, Chicanos do too, and people grow into things or change their mind, et cetera, et cetera. But um, I felt like I had to shrink myself. I couldn't bring attention to myself. I couldn't fight back, right? This is me when I was younger. Now, if you know me from the time I was 13 or 14 and up, then you know, like constantly challenging that status quo became who I was. Building my career was like reverting back to that, like, I don't know what I'm doing, and very few people in this realm look like me. So I'm going to just follow the rules. I'm going to just follow directions, you know? Um, it's kind of a big reason why I have the blue hair. Like, I've always wanted colored hair when I was younger, but it wasn't an option for me, or at least I thought, and maybe I was told, because you don't want to stand out, you know? So as we're talking about, and I didn't mention the title of that slide, but like, the system doesn't work for us. The system doesn't work for people who in any way like derive from this margin of standard or acceptability, right? Like, um, if you have certain needs that are different from the quote unquote standard, you know, Amado taught me that. Like, he is non-speaking, right? We learned sign language. You find very few places in our city where you can go and speak sign language and be served well, or served equitably, right? Um, so this system that's built for us to be, you know, being able to walk, being able to voice with our mouths, being able to use our hands, being able to, you know, being documented, being quote unquote formally educated, like all these standards that are put to be able to participate, just isn't a system that works for us, isn't a system that works for people who have mixed status families, isn't a system that works for families like ours who has a kiddo that has special needs. Um, so it's almost like adopting that Deanna vibe of like, well, the system doesn't work for us, so let's like seek our seek for our trajectory to be different, right? To navigate the system differently. So going back to the title of my presentation, Beyond the 9 to 5, Building a Business After the Bustle. The bustle being that, like, again, graduate high school, go to college, get a job, get a 9 to 5 job, clock in, clock out until 62 and a half, and then you can pull out Social Security, and then like, good job, you did it. I remember probably about 10 years ago, there started being all these rumblings about like how Social Security is not going to be an option when my generation retires, right? So it's like, started getting those inklings of like, so what's the point of having like built everything around this retirement plan if like maybe that's not even a thing? I don't know much about that, so I'll pause there. But becoming a mother, and becoming a mother to a child that has special needs, definitely, like I said, challenged me to work outside of the margins of what supposedly is a standard. So I titled this "Starting a Business in Search of Liberation" because I knew, or I knew that I wanted to be a hands-on mom always, but having a child with special needs means that, unfortunately, that we have to advocate, and we're often on the phone with Medicaid. We're often on the phone with his clinics and with his, he has 11 different specialists that he sees. We have a few appointments a month. You have to go into those scenarios prepared with the right questions, with all of the questions, being on all the portals so that when those messages come in, you're ready to respond. Being on the lookout for those letters from Medicaid or DFS or whoever else is going to be sending you mail. And it's like, I can't function in this like 9 to 5 clock in, clock out thing anymore if like the system wasn't built for my son. And so it's not realistic for me to do this 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, and still be able to advocate in the way that I have to for Amado, right? I see Marissa's with us. Hey, Marissa. Marissa says retirement is very scary for all of us right now. And that, Marissa, is exactly the purpose of my series, is that we were told that 62 and a half I don't know, like that was our arbitrary number, right? Growing up was like, oh, you can pull out Social Security at 62 and a half. What if retirement isn't what they told us it is, right? Like, what if retirement means that you are the boss of your time? You have autonomy over what you choose to do or not to do, whether that's as a job, for financial purposes, etc. And you can work from wherever you want to work from, because we have all built up skills and knowledge that we actually use oftentimes to serve corporations that are going to take um, benefits of that and take that amount of value and keep so much of it while giving you back a really small percentage, right? That's like, I know, a whole can of worms. And I think education is different. Being a teacher was different for me because it didn't feel like um, I wasn't doing things that were purposeful, obviously. But I think a lot of us do end up being in jobs and in careers where it's like you're working to benefit the corporation financially, and then hope, like you said, Marissa, that like by the time retirement comes around, you've collected enough to be comfortable. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. I included these pictures because first of all, I had to use a few memes because the cutest and like best pictures I could use to describe what I'm talking about, my kids are like shirtless or like pantless or whatever. Like if you have toddlers, then you know what's up, right? But here you see the second picture is our son helping me with the laundry. Like he does that regularly. He helps push the buttons, which is his favorite part. He helps put the things from the washer into the dryer. Um, he pretends that he helps to fold, and then by that time he's like burnt out. So then he actually messes it all up, but it's okay too. Um, the third picture you see is FaceTiming my mom. This past summer, I'd always wanted to build a garden, and I haven't mentioned that I have OCD, but I'm pretty sure I developed that through that very like linear way of thinking growing up. Like this is the only correct way to do things, right? So I had avoided for so long to build a garden because I was like, I don't know how, and like how much sun do things need, and like how much water do things need, and like where in the yard am I supposed to put it, and what grows in Missouri, and what, like at one point it was like, what kind of humidity zone are we in or whatever, you know? So all of these check boxes that I needed to check before I could build my garden. And finally, just being like, you know what, Amado, let's go out in the yard. We like just, you know, messed up a bunch of soil. I had gotten free seeds from PH Coffee. Shout out PH Coffee, who does a lot of community work. And just sprinkled them in and was like, we'll see what happens, you know? So like weeks going by and teaching him how to water the plants and all the things that aren't possible when you are like that 9 to 5 bustle, 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 hustle, 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 you know? Obviously not saying that building a business and having a business is not that, but being able to take those moments to be like, I can do these 15, 20 minutes or an hour to go do this with Amado, because I know it's going to be in benefit of him in the long term. Like Marissa said in the comments, teaching him to be independent, even if he has special needs, he can still learn to be independent. Exactly. And Carmelita too, right? Our daughter doesn't have special needs, but them seeing, like, aside from the special needs, just as children, like we can be self-sufficient. We can take risks. We can be nervous. We can be anxious and still get it done, right? Or still go try. The laundry thing, right? Like, I'm capable. I'm a capable person, you know. Um, the I purposefully I purposefully put that picture of her after that, because then the squash we brought inside, and Amado helped me steam it and como like blend it into baby food for Carmelita. So these things I never would have imagined to be able to do if it wasn't that original like um, framework of clock in, clock out, 9 to 5, get ready for retirement, right? Like I never dreamed, I never thought like that I could live this kind of life. Um, I'm not 100% a stay at home mom, right? I just have the flexibility to do those things because I decided that the values for myself is more in my children than it is to make money for a corporation. Like I said, luckily for me, that never has really been my story. I was a teacher and then worked for the LEC. So in neither of those scenarios did I feel like an organization or a corporation was taking advantage of my skills. But that bustle that I thought I had to do because it was the only option for Americans um, was such a lie, you know? And the thing, let me see what my, I'll show you those in a second. The thing that pushed me into this level of thinking actually wasn't even my choice. So like I'm like, oh yeah, we can build a business to like get out of the 9 to 5 like struggle and the bustle and the hustle. This wasn't even my choice to do. Actually, what happened was, long story short, the system showed up again. And the system showed up to say, you and your husband, your income is too much for Medicaid. Your new bill monthly is $2,100 a month in order for your son to keep his Medicaid. Apparently, my mother was born in COVID. Apparently, Medicaid had some, they were like, what's that called? Less strict on things through COVID, right? And that had changed in 2024. So we get this letter. It's like a bill for $2,000 a month to keep our Medicaid. And it was like, why? Because we didn't qualify for Medicaid based on income anyway. It's the disability Medicaid, and it's only for Amado and our family. But this year has been a roller coaster of like talking to our representatives, talking to our senators in Jeff City, doing the research, finding the legislation that really affirmed like, if you have done the work to build a stable career and be married and have a family, that is too much success. Or like, I don't know what words to use, but like those of us who are stuck in the like, you make too much money for social services but not enough to really be comfortable, right? And then on top of that, of course, we never thought we wanted to rely on social services, right? But having a kiddo with disability means you have to. Our Amado's kind of care is almost $20,000 a month for all of his medical equipment, food, and all of that, right? And so obviously, it's not an option to not have Medicaid for us. So as we're having conversations, legislative conversations, the bills that are coming out, or like the different pauses and all the funding and all of that, it's like there are people like our family, there are families like ours that do rely on these services, right? But getting that letter was like, oh, Sana, good job following all the rules, good job like going to college, good job like having a stable job and having a husband with a stable job and everything. Here's your consequence to that. Here's your punishment to that, or at least that's how it felt, right? So all of this life of like building a garden and making food from scratch for Carmelita and everything, I only got a chance to do all those things because the system gave me the hardest nudge and the hardest push to be like, okay, this system's not going to work for me, no matter how compliant I am, no matter how complacent or complicit I am. And so how do I work with this, or work through this, work around this, right? And so I'll show you a couple of videos that may or may not work, and that's okay if they don't. Videos of the kids like helping me cook and stuff like that. So kind of the same concept. Um, Again, El Loro's Tesoro and my small business was born out of the hardest nudge and push from the system to be like, first of all, you can't make that amount of money, was very literally the message. Um, but if that was going to be the case for me, then it's like, okay, well, then I want to build something for my family that means I can spend as much time with them as possible. 110%, you will never hear, or like as of now, you will not hear me say that I've become a millionaire, billionaire off of my small business. Definitely not the case. If anything, my business probably was not even profitable last year, and hasn't been yet. But being consistent, being a part of this community, um, building the network, learning myself, going to the workshops, listening to people, reading the comments so that I can continue to learn, because I don't want to give all of my worth and my worth to a system that doesn't work for us, you know? So I built this small business called El Loro's Tesoro. And originally what it was that I had learned to coupon for my family because we were struggling after I lost my job, or after I left my job. Um, and I was saving so much money that I was like, I want other people to save money too. So I started to sell items, couponed items for a little bit, um, more than I'd paid for them, but 30% less than what they cost at the store. So it was a win-win for people. And it was something that I was doing so casually because um, I we obviously have constraints with our Medicaid to not be able to make a certain amount of money, right? That's the easiest way to say that. I know there's a lot of like black and white. There's a lot of gray, right? Hi Sue, good to see you. But more than ever, I'm like El Oro's Tesoro and what the system, this like stronghold that the system has on my family, to be honest, has led me into what I'm about to talk about. Basically, if you're in a situation where you don't no longer want to put your worth and all of your worth into corporations or businesses or other people that don't value you, or where you are just waiting for that 62 and a half and hoping that social security is still an option, I would encourage you to step out of that black and white box. It took me a lot. I'm in therapy to this day. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and so linear is the way that I think, and it serves me well a lot. Actually, like I've thought about, like, on my college degrees, like putting an asterisk and be like, thanks OCD, because how organized and meticulous I was with my schoolwork and my college work was partially due to my OCD, and also has been one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to be like, wait, there's other possibilities. Wait, we don't have to just do this 9 to 5 and then retire and then hope we all have social security, right? Check out what my life looks like, and I hope it inspires you in one way or another. I'm not an expert in any of this, but I'm definitely here as a resource. And like I said, this is just an introduction to a series that Deanna and I are curating for the spring. El Loro's Tesoro, as you can see, here's my Instagram. It started as this very little, and actually mostly for my friends and family, just being like, who needs laundry detergent? Who needs body soap? Who needs, right, all these things that we pay a lot of money for. I had learned how to coupon, and so was saving my family money. That's kind of how it started. And then as I learned more about working on my own time and using my skills, it's like, oh, there's all these other avenues to be able to do that. So I started an Etsy shop. You see that here. I think you can see, maybe not. I haven't sold very much at all. Actually, the babysitting coupon is the coupon that, does it say, people have it in their cart? See? Oh my gosh, Marissa, I will totally teach you how to coupon. Deanna, maybe that's one of the sessions that we do, because I think what we're going to do is each element of my business now, I think I might do a session for each one of those elements. So the couponing, couponing is next. Therapy is great. Thanks for supporting mental health. For sure. I have been in therapy for probably 6 years, since before becoming a mom. And like I said, it led to my diagnosis of OCD. It's helped me understand my brain a lot better. And also, I just sent an email today to schedule my next appointment, because uh, through all of this and through like feeling like things aren't meant for us and the system isn't meant for us, it's a downer. Like it's kind of depressing sometimes. So yes, so my first part of my business is totally couponing, Marissa. So if we want that, like, I'm totally down to show y'all how to coupon. The Etsy shop is another way to make money. Like I said, I'm not a millionaire or a 10,000aire or nothing like that yet off of it, but if you can use Canva and you can design things, people will buy them. And like, if you see my babysitting coupon, it's 99 cents. I designed it, and people can, I send them the link once they order it, they pay the 99 cents, and they can customize it for their person, right? So usually you'll get people who, like a grandparent who's, it's their child's birthday and they want to give them a babysitting coupon for babysitting, so they can put their person's name. And I have figured out how to like do the design elements to all of that through my research. And so those people who are maybe in the audience or watching that want to learn how to do an Etsy business, I know that digital products can be really, really profitable, because if one of your products takes off, you have passive income right there. So, for example, my babysitting coupon is my most popular. I think it has sold 5 times. Woo woo. And so every once in a while, I'll just get a message from Etsy that's like, someone purchased this coupon. And I think I get like 65 cents out of the 99. And so if one of your products is really popular and it takes off, I can have that 65 cents times a million, right? If a million people downloaded it. So Etsy is another kind of thing. If you have skills that can translate into something like this. I designed a couple of t-shirts. Neither one of them have sold. So it's kind of a toss-up, right? You got to figure out what people are looking for and what people want. But I'm going to continue at it, because why not? And then TikTok. I know this has been a big thing in the last few years. By the way, all of these things I was super scared to do. I'm still scared. I'm still nervous. I'm still anxious. I'm still not 100% sure what I'm doing. Hi, Jimena. Hola, amor. But we do it and we figure it out together. That's what we're here for. That's what Chicano Center for the Arts is about. That's what Deanna is about. Is like, if I know something and it can be helpful to you, like, let's get it. Let's do this together. So TikTok is another kind of stream of income that you could be pursuing. I have 3,300 followers on TikTok, which I've worked really hard at. Doesn't sound like a lot, and really in retrospect, it isn't. But you can make money off of TikTok. Hi, Tina. Oh, love your TikToks. I honestly, thank you, Jimena. You're so sweet. Hola, muchacha. Hola, hola, hola. How are you, Natalia? So TikTok, you can become a TikTok shop affiliate, which I am. I've only sold one product off of my affiliate links. So again, not a professional, not an expert, and I'm not a 10,000aire on TikTok yet. But if there are folks out there who are interested in building a TikTok and having it being a TikTok shop affiliate, that's another stream of income that, again, like, I can be up here and just like post my TikTok real quick and then go be a mom, or go be a friend or go get drinks. It's not the clock in, clock out. thing that has kept so many of us um, like restrained, right? TikTok shop affiliate. There's a couple ways to make money off of TikTok. The only one that I've done so far is TikTok shop affiliates, because some of the other programs you have to have more followers. So one in particular, you have to have more than 5,000 followers, and then another one you have to have more than 10,000 followers. You have to have like a million views or something within 30 days, which I haven't had yet. But TikTok is also an option. The next one is like I I built so many skills out of my schooling, right? Like I am an educator. I'm a trained educator. I have a master's degree in education. And so I have to remind myself that I have skills that other people need. And but it doesn't have to be this like I go into a classroom and I teach all day long, right? Um, this is a screenshot of a Google Drive I have for this really small curriculum that I built for a local nonprofit that's new and growing. Shout out to the Central Circle. They're doing some financial literacy classes for kiddos in the city. And so, me with my teaching skills combined with their skills for financial literacy, I just showed up as who I am, and I can develop a curriculum with 6 lessons, right? So I did that. And so if you, let's say, I think about my mom, right? My mom worked a couple of factory jobs when I was growing up. There's skill that gets built in jobs like that, right? Logistics skill, communication skills, things like that, that other people need. And so if you have been working in accounting forever, like as a receptionist, I know like people who have been receptionists for like dentist's office or daycares, things like that, you pick up on things, right? Sure, there are going to be people whose contracts are like you have to have a master's degree in education, but there are some up and coming smaller organizations that want to prioritize Latinas, first generation people of color, who'd be like, yeah, we'll give you a chance, right? Why not take the risk? I see LEC and Midwest Chicana talking about we need to do a TikTok class too. I'm down. I don't know what I'm doing, but we'll all not know what we're doing together. Here's another example of that. Like I mentioned earlier, my master's degree is in teaching English as a second language. Um, those skills are not skills that all educators have. Those skills are not skills, especially because we have a teacher shortage, we have a Latina teacher shortage, we have a multilingual teacher shortage, we have a teacher shortage of people who can teach English as a second language, right? So like all these shortages, there are schools and institutions who would be willing to be like, yes, come. Like you do this little bit, you don't got to teach the whole class, you don't got to be here the whole day. Can you build a little bit here and there for kiddos who are needing to learn to speak English? Absolutely. Those are skills that I have, sure, I've learned from my degree. But if you have been working at a company for 20 years and you know how to run XYZ programs, you've become an expert in Adobe. If you become an expert in Adobe, there's definitely businesses and corporations and companies that will pay you to do some stuff on Adobe. That's an example, and I'm sure that is the case, but like I don't know what that is, but I know that all of us have built up skills and knowledge somewhere, whether it's like formally through education, college and things, or through our life experience that you can use to get out of that 9 to 5 and be like, I'm going to use the word picky, have autonomy for how you use those skills, who you give those skills to. And one of those things being too, like not working with corporations and institutions that you don't align with, that your values don't align with. So for example, there are, of course, the political climate super crazy right now, but there are certain brands that maybe if they came to me, or certain companies that I'd be like, we're not on the same page in terms of morals and values. And so no thanks. Whereas if you work the 9 to 5 or you were up under a corporation or a business, it's like that would be your job, right? And then lastly, I did start a blog. I get a little nervous. I did start a blog 5 years ago. I started it when I first found out I was pregnant with my son. And I have always had the desire to write. It did not fit in that black and white thinking. It didn't fit in like clock in, clock out, 9 to 5. You are listening to me say things that I would not have said 5 years ago. Definitely not 10 years ago. Just yesterday, I was talking to my coach and telling her, like, I'm so excited. I wrote again. I posted a blog. You see this blog post, 2/14/2025. The one before that is from June 2024, because it's really difficult for my brain to be like, you can do this. And people make money off of writing. People make money off of blogs. Hi, Abby. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. But this black and white thinking of like, you can't just like write and then like people pay you for it, or you can't just write and like people like it, right? Like that's a hobby, or it very much isn't. Like people do it for work, and they can choose, they can have autonomy around how they do it or don't. They can choose to write for certain you know, news outlets or for certain websites or not. So for now, and you all are getting the sneak peek info. For now, it's sanaspeaks.com. Like I said, my last blog was 2/14/25, and it's titled "To Write Because I Can." In that blog, I talk about like having to challenge myself to write because I'm good at it, write because I love it, and write because I can. Because there are people who don't have the option and don't have the privilege, right? So to kind of summarize all of this, in that we all have privileges and abilities, capabilities, skills, knowledge that other people don't have, and that they will be gracious and grateful to have from you. You have skills that people are going to appreciate, that maybe a large corporation or a business or someone who is taking advantage of those skills won't necessarily appreciate in the ways that they should. And so as you consider building a business, first of all, let me be your guinea pig about like all these different avenues. I'm learning, and I'm taking the risk that as a kid I couldn't, that my family couldn't. We needed stable work. We needed, not that I don't need that now. We needed security in a way that I have the privilege not to need now, because I'm documented. Um, I just have I have a husband that is very supportive, and I have all of these ways that I can be free and be liberated. And so if you um, want to get out of the bustle of the 9 to 5, we're going to be spending some time together this spring, and we're going to be learning together. Um, I can break down, like Marissa and other folks want to learn the coupon. I'm happy to break that down. We want to break down TikTok together, and this is for us, like us Latinos, us Chicanos here in Kansas City. Um, not like I'm not selling anything. It's just literally like, here's what I know. So if this is something that interests you, come join us. Come join me. Let's learn together. Let's shoot ideas together. Let's ask each other questions. We all have different skills and knowledge and backgrounds and, um, values that are can be used in so many different ways. And if the ways that I've used mine can be helpful for you, I'm so excited to spend some time with you this spring. I know that we plan to have most of these in person, and so please be on the lookout for those dates. I'll go through all of these different ways that I make sure I can be here for my family and still make a little bit of money. But if you are interested in being beyond 9 to 5 and building a business after the bustle, shout out to me for making that title because that's kind of cute. Join us this spring because we're going to have different courses together and different workshops together. And some of them and some pieces, I will say I'm not an expert, and we can come together and put pieces together. I appreciate y'all being with me here this evening. This is my first time on Midwest Chicana podcast, so I hope you enjoyed it. Please continue to engage with Chicano Center for the Arts. I know they have their rally on Sunday. I hope to see you there. I will be there and I will be speaking. Please come out and support, and there are many, many things to come this spring. I appreciate y'all, and I hope to see you at the workshops this spring. Bye, everyone.
Break it down.